Welcome to a baker's dozen of Hornblower famous food moments, presented by Mary Hayes and Jeff Rathbone at the 2023 CS Forrester AGM in Lechlade, UK. When we think of Hornblower, we tend to think of battles, lovers, career progression, ships, or the various personnel he works with. But why not think of food? Because everyone has to eat sometime. Regarding our methodology, we cataloged 70 mentions of food throughout the series and scored them based on food description, plot development, and character development. There were some difficult choices, but we've included what we believe are the top baker's dozen of food moments. As a sidebar, the expression baker's dozen dates from the 1500s. Bakers would include an extra bun as a safeguard against penalties for shorting the weight of their bread, penalties such as fines or flogging. Thus, baker's dozen means 13 items, not 12. We will give you a keyword or quote as a clue and ask you to guess the book or the scene. Then we will provide our thoughts on this scene in terms of food, plot, and character development. So let's get started. Pawpaws. Can you guess the book or the scene? It's the book Lieutenant Hornblower on the Renown with Captain Sawyer in Port Royal, Santo Domingo. The Spanish prisoners tried to take the Renown. Captain Sawyer was killed and Bush injured. This scene provides a good description of food. Hornblower brings Bush a basket of pawpaws, mangoes, and pineapple in the hospital. These would have been very exotic fruit in England. A pineapple would cost about $5,000 in today's money, but were common in the Caribbean. There's great plot development here. They discuss the upcoming court of inquiry and the new position of commander of retribution. And in terms of character development, we see Hornblower's kindness in visiting Bush and the affection and friendship that they feel for each other. Made from the purest gristle. Can you guess the book or scene? It's the Hornblower and the Atropos on the canal boat Queen Charlotte on the River Thames. Hornblower has ignored Maria all day while helping sail the canal boat. There's a good description of their dinner: sausages, peas pudding, and beer on the Queen Charlotte. The sausages were described as they were apparently made from the purest gristle. The skins were as tough as their contents. There's significant plot development. Hornblower's on his way to take command of the Atropos. Trafalgar has just been won, but Nelson killed. And there's lots of character development. Hornblower demonstrates his genius and flexibility in mastering sailing the canal boat, his single purpose in wanting to get to London to take up his command, and his kindness to Maria, pretending to enjoy eating the food that she considerably brought them. But he is play acting the loving husband. I spent last night dreaming dreams. Can you guess the book or scene? It's the book The Happy Return on the Lydia, sailing around the coast of South America. Hornblower and Lady Barbara meet on deck as has become their habit. Having weathered Tierra del Fuego, they are now homeward bound. Lady Barbara provides us with a wonderful food moment, fantasizing about breakfast. In her dreams, there were fried eggs, buttered eggs, slices of white bread spread thick with butter, and café au lait with cream, compared to the reality of her black coffee and weevily bread. Romantic tension has entered their relationship. They know that this moment out of time must end, that they will be separated by the reality of their different lives. This scene shows Lady Barbara's good nature, common sense, and her broader appeal than just that of a great lady. Number 10, I have dined extremely well. Can you guess the book or scene? It's the book The Commodore on the Nonsuch in St. Petersburg, Russia, at the royal banquet with the Tsar. Hornblower is introduced to the heady combination of caviar and vodka. He makes a meal of the buffet. Then he has to eat a full dinner on gold plates and drink more wine. There's a lot going on in the plot. His mission is to secure Russia's support for England over Bonaparte. He is uncomfortable with royalty and protocol. He has just interrupted Braun's assassination attempt on the Tsar of Russia and the Prince of Sweden. And he's wearing that stolen pistol in his waistband. And finally, the Countess Canarine is flirting with him. This scene shows his intuition, resourcefulness, and flexibility in managing all these competing tasks. Not a drop, sir. Dry as yesterday's pannikin. Can you guess this book or scene? The book is Mr. Midshipman Hornblower under Captain Pellew on the Indefatigable in the Bay of Biscay, France. Hornblower is assigned to the prize Marie Gallant 24 days out of New Orleans with a cargo of rice. It's his first independent command. In this period, rice was a luxury, and this cargo could be expected to sell for a profit beyond that of the prize ship. Pellew had fired on Marie Gallant before she surrendered, which has consequences. The rice is exposed to water and swells, becoming an evil character that Hornblower has to battle. He tries to throw the cargo overboard, but is unable to exorcise his ship of this evil influence, and they are forced to abandon ship as the rice bursts the ship. Hornblower loses his first command and is taken prisoner. The rice's evil influence continues through the next chapter, and it is only at the end that Hornblower is able to exorcise the rice. Having set fire to the French pirate ship, he passes up on fame and promotion by telling Captain Pellew he doesn't know how the fire started. Hornblower shows leadership and resourcefulness. Remember, he is only 17 and has to deal with French prisoners, keep his own crew sober and motivated, fix his damaged ship, abandon ship, then manage both crews on a boat. He rises to the occasion even though everyone is twice his age, but not without some tears along the way. Number 8. There is an odd rumor prevalent. I did not wish to disturb the fete by discussing it. Can you guess the book or scene? It's the book Lord Hornblower at the Chateau de Grasse. It's Brown and Annette's wedding, which the Count officiated. You have great imagery here of peasants and nobility mingling, barrels of wine, tables loaded with food. The gaiety and lightheartedness of the wedding are contrasted with news that Bonaparte may have escaped. The storyline turns very bleak and ends with Marie being killed and Hornblower and the Count threatened with execution. There's a lot of character development going on here. As Forster writes, at one moment he sat gorged and bloated with food at a trestle table. At another he was skipping madly over the courtyard cobbles between two buxom maidens, hand in hand and laughing unrestrainedly. Hornblower shocks himself with his ability to be unself-conscious and to have fun. He realizes he wants to turn his back on England and stay with Marie. Number 7. I'll have no truck with mutiny. Can you guess the book or scene? It's the book Hornblower and the Hotspur, the Channel Fleet under Cornwallis at the George Inn. After 2 days of a honeymoon, Hornblower and Maria must say goodbye. She has arranged a special breakfast for him, consisting of a vast, sizzling rump steak. There's a lot going on here. Hornblower is departing that morning for Hotspur to start his duty of spying on Brest. England is anticipating that Bonaparte will declare war. Hornblower doesn't like steak, but he doesn't want to hurt Maria's feelings. He realizes that she is showing her love for him by planning the dish. By sharing it with her, I'll have no truck with mutiny, he playfully tells her when she declines, and then mangling his portion, it looks like he ate it. He pretends to have been pleased with it, pretends to be the in-love newlywed. He used a sprat to catch a mackerel. Can you guess the book or scene? It's the book Admiral Hornblower at the dinner party on the Bride of Abydos, featuring the cream of Jamaican society. We are introduced to Ramsbottom, the young man who inherited millions from his manufacturing father. This dinner party is one of the biggest food moments in the entire series. We are told that no expense was spared. There was 2 tons of ice at 6 pence per pound, a seaman turning a crank to generate air conditioning, the intrusion of horrible music, as Hornblower deemed it, from an onboard orchestra, a table of flowers, and glittering linen. The dinner opens with sherry, then caviar and vodka, flying fish served with either hock or champagne, a fiery mulligatawny soup, and for the main dishes, roast chicken, a leg of pork, and a ragout of corned beef, served with a burgundy. Ramsbottom predicted that corned beef preserved in an iron box would revolutionize Navy victualling. No women were present, possibly because Ramsbottom was unmarried. This was a working dinner with gossip and intel shared freely. Ramsbottom uses the intel floating around him and floats his own fake intel to impersonate Hornblower in support of the Venezuelan Revolution. Hornblower sums up the situation with the expression he uses a sprat, a small fish, to catch a mackerel. Hornblower finds that he likes Ramsbottom, despite his reservations about the nouveau riche. Number 5. She's like a bloomin' Noah's Ark, sir. Can you guess the book or scene? It's the book Mr. Midshipman Hornblower on the Caroline on detached duty from Indefatigable under Pellow off the coast of North Africa. Here we see what's required just to feed the fleet, all the enormous quantities of food. Hornblower and the crew of his boat are on a mission to buy supplies from the local war chief. They are exposed to plague, but instead of letting themselves become redundant, Hornblower quickly decides to transfer all the cattle onto the Caroline. Thus the quote, "She's like a bloomin' Noah's Ark," as they spend 3 weeks sailing the Mediterranean, watering and feeding the cattle while satisfying their quarantine. Mr. Midshipman Hornblower again rises to the challenge of command. He keeps everyone alive and safe while sailing around the Mediterranean. Here's another example of his resourcefulness and ingenuity, and earns him some positive fame in the fleet. Prodigious. Can you guess the book or scene? It's the book Hornblower and the Hotspur under Pellow on Tonnant on the Brest blockade. Hornblower is summoned to the Tonnant for what he thinks is an all-captains sociable gathering, but realizes that the guests include Cornwallis, the Rear Admiral of the White, who arrives just before him. This event will be more significant and highbrow. Forster went to town with this scene. He describes an elegant dinner with white linens, nutmeg and blue-colored damask, carpeting, gracefully draped 18-pounders, 6-foot ceilings, and sprigs of nobility in dazzling whites waiting upon them. Hornblower, the only commander present, is seated among famous captains with Cornwallis opposite him. A feast at Valhalla wouldn't have had as many glittering heroes. There is the famous steak and kidney castle pie, prodigious, they say, upon its introduction. Pork ragout, galantine with truffles, fresh vegetables of cauliflower, carrots, and spring greens, greatly appreciated by seamen consigned to a preserved, salted, pickled diet. There are puddings, colored jellies, duff, and cheeses. Hornblower learns that he will not be returning to England and to a pregnant Maria for a long time, and conceives of the plan to destroy the semaphore station at Patuminau. Lots of character development here. Hornblower wonders if everything is as it seems, or is it just smoke and mirrors? Pellow confesses that the pie is made from a scrawny bullock and the pastry made from flour spoiled after sitting in bilge water. And the glittering company? Hornblower discovers that they are content to leave junior captains such as him to the dangers and discomforts of the front line. And more importantly, he discovers about himself that he disdains the comforts of the main body. He values his independence too much for this easy career path. He, who came from a humble background, learns that he has to stay true to himself and not be seduced by money and what it can buy. Number 3, we're almost done here. That sounds like supper coming now. Can you guess the book or scene? It's the book Flying Colors. Hornblower, Bush, and Brown are prisoners being transported to Paris for trial. This is the first meal being served on the road to Paris. Bush is recovering from having his foot amputated during the Sutherland's battle with the French fleet. They are served a traditional meal, a French meal of soup, stewed veal, and wine. Keep in mind the situation is grim. They will be court-martialed and executed, although Hornblower tries to protect Bush and Brown from this knowledge. It's the beginning of a road trip. The road trip is a famous motif for bonding, for forging a brotherhood. This is something Hornblower has never had during his lonely life. Lonely because he is shy and reserved. Lonely because he is always the lofty captain. Dinner is served just after Bush is treated by the local doctor. Hornblower's faintness is attributed by Bush and Brown to hunger and not to the sight of Bush's injury. A road trip is also about equality, meeting your companions in the middle. Hornblower serves Bush his dinner in his sickbed. They then converse to allow Brown the chance to eat without displaying his lower deck table manners. Number 2. Pineapples not as good as we enjoyed at Panama. Can you guess the book or scene? It's the book A Ship of the Line. Hornblower is captain of the Sutherland. Hornblower and Maria are attending a dinner party at the Angel Inn in Plymouth. It's hosted by the newlyweds, the Laytons. Following shortly after Hornblower and Barbara's breakup and the happy return. What a fickle universe to throw them together. They might never have seen each other again if they didn't move in the same circles, but fate puts Hornblower under Barbara's new husband, Admiral Layton. A sumptuous meal is served designed to highlight Layton's wealth. It opens with turtle soup, which was a delicacy. Hornblower, drowning in Barbara's perfume, burns his mouth on the hot soup and is brought to his senses. Beef, ducks, neat's tongues, which is a dish made of ox tongue, ragout, which was a stew, cold beefsteak pie, Devon ham, cheese, dessert, and those pineapples. Hornblower learns that he will be escorting an East India convoy to Lisbon, while we know that Hornblower is undermanned and that Maria is pregnant again, a mistake on Hornblower's part that will tie him to her again. This episode is full of pathos. Whose heart doesn't break to see Hornblower and Barbara married to the wrong people? Hornblower, married to Maria because he couldn't be mean to her and break off their little flirtation, ends up married to a woman with no curiosity about anything. And Barbara, married to a man who, on paper, is her equal, but we see quickly is full of entitlement and does not wish to improve himself. Don't you want to shake the two of them and make them look past their pride? Hornblower gets some small revenge on Layton as he is encouraged to tell the tale of the battle with the Natividad, the battle being an example of his courage and bravery and commitment to which Layton, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, has never been challenged. And here we are, number 1. If you tap gently, they come out of their own accord. Can you guess the book or the scene? Yes, it's the book The Commodore, on board the Nonsuch in St. Petersburg, Russia. It takes place during Tsar Alexander's incognito visit during watering. Hornblower has designed a luncheon for the Tsar, which will highlight England's strengths of determination, commitment, and grit. The luncheon is served below in the dark, cramped sailors' quarters. The meal consists of typical Navy food of pea soup, biscuits, boiled salt ribs of beef, boiled salt beef tongue, boiled salt cat pork, pickled cabbage, and rum. As Forster writes, Carlin, of long habit, began to rap his biscuit on the table, stopped when he realized what he was doing, and then started rapping again guiltily. Mr. Carlin is knocking out the weevils, sir, explained Bush to the Tsar. If you tap gently, they come out of their own accord. This way, you see, sir. Hornblower is trying to influence Russia to side with England over Bonaparte, in keeping with his mission. As we know, so much hangs on this meal beyond the menu. Hornblower uses his imagination to create an authentic experience that will appeal to the Tsar. He wants to impress Alexander with the Navy's fortitude. But the Navy is built on the service of the lower decks in particular. Hornblower shows his respect for the lower decks with this demonstration. And thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed a baker's dozen of Hornblower famous food moments. and that you feel intrigued enough to open your Hornblower books and revisit these really excellent scenes for yourself.